National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien said that the intelligence about the alleged Russia plot was being taken so seriously that U.S. allies were alerted and that it could impact military tactics. So how is that a hoax?
Well, as I mentioned yesterday, what happens when any intelligence comes in unverified, if there is any way that it could affect American troops or allies, it is immediately communicated on the ground to ensure that troops and commanders and generals can make the best decisions, tactically speaking. So that's the way it's done. But what I would say is, at the same time, until there's a strategic decision for the president to make, until it is verified, it is not briefed up to the president of the United States. That's how intelligence works.
Is he angry or frustrated or upset about the fact that he was not in the loop on this when members of Congress were briefed and U.S. allies were briefed?
No, the president believes that and has great faith in Ambassador O'Brien and the others who made the decision that this shouldn't be risen to his desk. It was a career CIA officer with more than 30 years tenure who made the decision not to brief it up, and the National Security Advisor agreed with that decision. She's an excellent officer and does great work, and made the decision not to brief it up. It was the right decision to make, and at this moment, as I speak to you, it is still unverified.
What does the president have to say to military service, the families of service members who are really afraid that their loved ones might have been killed in connection to this Russia bounty? There are families already saying, we want the United States and federal government to call us and settle us up. Kristen had an interview with a father saying that just this week. What is this president's message to the military families in this country?
So that it's unverified intelligence. It's continually being assessed, and the Department of Defense has said they do not know of any Americans that have been killed in relation to this unverified intelligence that's currently being assessed.
Coronavirus. Earlier today, the president said, I think that at some point that's going to sort of just disappear, I hope. Is hoping that it will disappear the president's strategy at this point?
No, the president's confident that it'll disappear. He's confident that he's put together a revolutionary, first-class team that is going to break through bureaucracy and get us a vaccine. He's confident that that will lead us to a place where we won't have COVID on our hands. And in fact, there was very pleasing news today from Pfizer and BioNTech that showed positive results for their vaccines.
Dr. Fauci says that we're heading toward 100,000 cases per day. So why does the president have evidence that it would just disappear?
Well,
Can you distinguish between a vaccine and it just disappearing?
One thing I would note with regard to cases, we're aware that there are embers in the country. We're aware that there are places with rising cases, and that's why Dr. Birx is on the ground and others. We're continually assessing that. But one thing I would note is just that when you do test more people, you do identify more cases, and that is rapidly ongoing. We're testing more than 500,000 a day. To give you an example, on April 6th, really the height of the pandemic, we were doing 151,525 tests. One day, Thursday is the number that I have here, we conducted 637,587 tests. So when you have more than a five-fold increase in tests, you have a greater identification of cases.
Do you consider what's happening in Florida, in Texas, Arizona as embers?
I would say that we see rising cases, we see embers around the country. We always knew that would come with reopening, but those who are identifying as positive cases do tend to be younger individuals, as the Vice President noted, and I think the increase in testing is part of the contribution to what we're seeing.
You used the word embers to describe the coronavirus, but yesterday another all-time record of 47,000 cases and 4 times this week a new record. Why do you use the word embers when many people would say it's more like a wildfire?
So I use the word embers because that is what the president has acknowledged that would happen around the country. You would see spikes across the country. He said at times you would see a fire across the country, embers, fires. But at the same time, I would note the increase in cases, or the increase in testing, 6-fold increase in testing. You identify more cases. I'd also note that Secretary Azar said that we've seen nationwide that fatalities at a 2-month low. So this is a different situation when those who are testing positive are younger. We have increased tests. We're aware where there are surges. That's why Dr. Birx is on the ground. But we believe we are equipped to handle what we see on the horizon.
Why is the president calling Black Lives Matter a symbol of hate?
Well, what the president was noting is that that symbol, when you look at some of the things that have been chanted by Black Lives Matter, like pigs in a blanket, fry 'em like bacon, that's not an acceptable phrase to paint on our streets. Look, he agrees that all Black Lives Matter, including that of Officer David Dorn, Patrick Underwood, 2 officers whose lives were tragically taken amid these riots. All Black lives do matter. He agrees with that sentiment. But what he doesn't agree with is an organization that chants pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon about our police officers, our valiant heroes who are out on the street protecting us each and every day.
Americans of all races have protested in all 50 states around that phrase, Black Lives Matter. And the president is here calling it a symbol of hate?
He's talking about the organization. I would note to you that the Greater New York BLM president has said if this country doesn't give us what we want, that we will burn down the system, and I could be speaking literally. I'd call that a pretty hateful statement.
But Kayleigh,
Yes,
he's not
Ben.
talking about the organization in his tweet. He says
Yes,
the words.
Ben.
He says the words.
Which,
Black Lives Matter.
what's the name of the organization again?
Black Lives Matter.
There you go. You
That-
just
those are
answered
the-
my
those are the
question.
words that
Go
are
ahead,
being
Ben.
knocked